Good morning. Welcome back to practice session. So in the previous video, we were discussing two topics of NET paper 1, communication and comprehension. This session is exclusively for practice. Why practice, you may think? Because practice is very important. Knowing all the basic information, knowing all the basic ideas, and knowing the concepts of particular topics are important, but that alone will not suffice. Since practicing alone will help you understand what sort of questions are generally asked, what types of options are generally given, and how to pick out a particular option. So that's why we have this session. So now we are into practice session. I have compiled a list of questions from previously asked NET paper 1 questions. So we'll just have a practice and then we'll understand how to pick out the right option. So now I'm sharing my screen. I have prepared a list based on previous year's question papers. Now first I'll deal with communication. Just look at the questions asked, look at the options given, answer is also given, but what I'm going to do is, it is not that look at the question, look at the answer, not at all. I'm just going to explain why that particular answer, okay? So that's what I'm going to do in this practice session. Now look at the first question. Using the central point of the classroom communication as the beginning of a dynamic pattern of ideas is referred to as. Look at the options given. Can you find out the answer? If not, just look at the answer. Answer is mind mapping. Now, I'm going to tell you why mind mapping. Look at all the options. Systemization. So first, understand the question. That is very important. Before you answer the question, you first understand the question properly, because understanding is very important. What they are asking, that you have to understand. Only then you can move on to the options. Now, understand the question. So central point of the classroom communication, it is going to be the generator of ideas, okay? That is the question. So based on that, the option should be systemization. What is meant by systemization? It's an organized structure. Problem orientation, you know what is meant by problem. So idea protocol, it's rule. So rule based ideas, and then mind mapping. So mind mapping is what called as some words or ideas or concepts linked to or arranged around the central concept. Okay, so everything around that are linked to or arranged around the central concept. So this option best suits the question. So that's why answer for mind mapping. Okay, so that's how we have to read the question. We have to understand the question and then go on to answer the question. Now the second question. Swapping of encoder-decoder roles in communication happens due to. So what is meant by swapping? Reversing. Okay. So encoder, the one who gives message. Decoder, one who receives message. So swapping of these roles get exchanged. How? When it gets exchanged? Due to cognitive disruptions. Cognitive in the sense that mental disturbances. The way we infer message. Is that the answer? Semantic noise. Semantic is based on grammar, okay, language barrier. Feedback analysis. Feedback is what you know. Sender, he gives the information, receiver will be getting, and he'll be giving a proper response. So feedback analysis or weak channelization. Weak channelization means that barrier according to the based on the channel media. Okay. So now look at the 4 options. The answer is 3. Feedback analysis. So why this answer? Feedback is what you know, right? So encoder gives the information, decoder receives the information. And when this decoder gives a response, he becomes the encoder. And that encoder becomes the decoder. So the process, the role becomes vice versa. So this suits the question. Swapping of encoder-decoder roles. The roles get exchanged. So third is the right option. Okay. Now the third question. Attitudes, actions, or appearances in the context of classroom communication are considered as. So attitudes, actions, or appearances are considered as verbal? No. Verbal means language, using language. Non-verbal, you know what is meant by non-verbal. Impersonal, not related to personal feelings. Irrational, okay. So just look at the options. Now find out what suits most. It is the second answer, non-verbal. Without using language, that body language, gestures alone communicate. So attitudes, actions, appearances, everything come under this category. So the answer is 2. Now the next question. Most often the teacher-student communication is, so how is teacher-student communication will be? Will it be spurious? Spurious is somewhat false or fake communication. Critical. Critical is some unfavorable or disapproving communication. Utilitarian. Utilitarian has a lot of meaning. Utilitarian is somewhat reasonable, sensible, practical, realistic, effective. So all these meaning come under this category. Confrontational. Confrontational is argumentative or dealing on some issues. Okay, so just find out the meanings of all these 4 words. Now tell me which will be the answer. So the answer given is utilitarian. Of course, the teacher-student communication will be reasonable, practical, sensible, effective, right? So this is the right answer. Now the next question. In a classroom, a communicator's trust level is determined by, so how we gain trust, how it is determined. If one is communicative, I am communicating. How do I gain trust? How it is determined? The use of hyperbole, or the receiver, how does he get the trust level? The use of hyperbole is exaggerated speech. The change of voice level, the modulation of voice. The use of abstract concepts. Abstract concept means something that we cannot understand. It has no form at all. Or eye contact. Yes, of course, the answer is eye contact. If I am talking to you, I need your eye contact. And when you are listening to me, you need my eye contact. So this is the most essential thing in a communication. So the answer is 4. And then imagine you are working in an educational institution where people are of equal status. Which method of communication is best suited and normally employed in such a context? Already we discussed this in the previous session. So educational institution or organization, wherever it may be. So people of equal status, when they communicate, that communication comes under which category? Look at the options. Horizontal communication, vertical communication, corporate communication, cross communication. So horizontal communication is somewhat, it's a type of communication that happens among people of equal status. So this is the answer, but I'll explain the other things also. Vertical communication is somewhat like a straight line, okay, like a scale, okay. So vertical, that's what stands straight. From upward to downward or downward to upward, that is called as vertical communication. Corporate communication, it's somewhat organized, structured communication. Cross communication of cross-culture communication, okay. So of these 4 options, first is the best answer. First is the answer. So horizontal communication that takes place among people of equal status, okay. So that is the answer. Now the next thing is, what are the barriers to effective communication? So we all know what is meant by barrier. Barrier is something that influence effective communication. Look at the 4 options and try to answer me properly. Moralizing, being judgmental, and comments of consolation. So moralizing means being judgmental, same thing. Commenting on what is right, what is wrong. Whenever you communicate to someone, if you go on saying this is right, this is wrong, that is not right, right? Comments of consolation, you know what is meant by comments of consolation. So being judgmental, moralizing. So that is the first option. Now we'll I'll give out the meaning of all the options and then I'll go for the right option. Then dialect, summary, and self-review. So when we communicate, we may we exchange dialect, summary, and self-review. Use of simple words, cool reaction, and defensive attitude. Using simple words, cool reaction, very, very, very clear, right? Then personal statements, eye contact, and simple narration. So now we have these options. Now tell me, which is the thing that will be a barrier to effective communication? Of course, it is very transparent. The first option is right. So moralizing, when we communicate, we should not judge we should not always judge. We should not always pointing out what is right or wrong. So that will be a barrier to effective communication. The one who will be listening won't want to communicate to you again if you go on judging things. Okay, so first one is the right option. The next question is positive classroom communication leads to. The options are coercion, submission, confrontation, and persuasion. So these are the four options. Now I'll explain what the meanings are. Coercion means somewhat force or threat. So positive classroom communication, does it lead to force or threat? Submission, accepting things as they are. Confrontation, I've already explained the meaning. Confrontation, somewhat issues, based on issues. Persuasion is nothing but changing a student's attitude towards something good on what we want that particular student to. Okay, so these are the meanings of four words. Now tell me the right option. Yes, of course, it is persuasion. So positive classroom communication. If we want to change a student's attitude towards positivity, of course, a classroom communication helps a lot. So persuasion is the right answer. Now the next question. As a teacher, select the best option to ensure your effective presence in the classroom. So as a teacher, which option I'll select to make sure my effective presence? Use a peer command. Should I go on commanding the students? Keep quiet, I'm here. Making aggressive statements. If you talk, I'll let you go, I'll send you out. Or adoption of well-established posture, the way I hold my body, the way I stand, the way I sit. Being authoritarian. Authoritarian means being a dictator. Don't talk, don't see here or there, just like that. Okay, being an authority, showing my authority. So these four options are here. Now the best option is, so how do I make sure my effective presence? Of course, a well-established posture, the way I stand, the way I remain in the class. Okay, so that itself makes students keep quiet or listen. Being a good student in the class. Okay, so that is the right answer. Now the next question. Every communicator has to experience. So if I am communicating, I have to experience what? Manipulated emotions. What is meant by manipulated emotions? That is not a real emotion. Just changing on emotions. It is a mix of both the reality and fake. Okay, so that is manipulated emotions. Anticipatory excitement. If I am trying to talk to someone, he should show an excitement. What she is about to say, that excitement, that is anticipatory excitement. If I am about to talk, if I am about to communicate, the receiver has to show some excitement. That is anticipatory excitement. Issue of homophiles, that is somewhat some homosexual issues. Like status dislocation, that dislocation of status, not an orderly or not a proper between two, sender and receiver, that dislocation. Okay. So these four options are given. The best option is, of course, we all know anticipatory excitement. When we are when we are ready to communicate, of course, the receiver has to show his or her excitement. That's what we expect, right? So second is a good option here. Then effective communication presupposes. So effective communication needs what? Non-alignment, not order. Domination, you all know. Passivity, acceptance. Whatever you are telling, you just tell, I'll be listening. Is that so? No. Understanding. Of course, the answer is understanding. So good communication presupposes, needs what? Understanding between sender and receiver. And then expressive communication is driven by. So how expressive communication happens? Is my communication expressive? Yes or no? I don't know. You have to tell me. So look at the options. Passive aggression, showing aggression. Should it be aggressive? Or encoder's personality characters. If I am communicating, means I am the encoder. So is it my personality characteristics? How do I communicate? I'm using my body language. I'm showing expression. So is that so? And then external clues are like the clue that I am giving, that I am using while communicating, that some body movement or some particular gesture. Or encoder decoder contract. That encoder decoder contract, understanding alone. That, I mean, based on some agreement. Is that so? So these are the 4 options. Now tell me the right answer. Of course, it is encoder's personality characteristics. If I am communicating expressively, it's purely based on my own personality characteristics. I'm using my expression, I'm using my body language, gesture, everything, right? So it's purely based on encoder, the one who communicates, one who gives information, his or her personality characteristics. So that is the answer. And then classroom communication is the basis of social identity, external inanities, bias, passivity, group aggression. It's very clear. So classroom communication is the basis of social identity. After you finish your degree, when you go out, you prove to the society who you are. So it forms the base. Classroom communication, how you communicate among your friends, between friends. So that forms the basis of social identity in a society. It proves your identity, who you are, how well you behave in a society. External inanities is a nonsensical action. Okay. Bias, passivity is accepting whatever is shown, whatever is acted to you. You just accept what it is. That is bias, passivity. Aggression, you all know what is meant by aggression. So based on the options, you just look at 4 options, which suits best. It is social identity, of course. It identify, it helps you to identify who you are in a society. Okay. So first is the answer, and then the interaction between a teacher and student creates a zone of proximal. So it is very clear. Just look at the options. Difference. So student-teacher communication. Does it lead to difference, proximal difference? Confusion, development, distortion. Distortion is somewhat disturbances. Okay. So it is very clear. The answer is development. It enhances. It is based on it develops, it grows. Okay, a good positive development, proximal development. So it is the third answer. And then the spatial audio reproduction in a classroom can reduce the students. The spatial audio reproduction is the sound, some unnecessary sound in a classroom can reduce. So it will reduce the students' cognitive load in understanding. Cognitive means the mental, okay, based on some reasoning, mental load in understanding, mental understanding, or respect for the teacher. Respect for the teacher, it's very clear. The meaning is clear. Motivation for excellence, just the motivation. Technology orientation. Just tell me, so the sound that are produced in a classroom, it will help, it will disturb, right? Well, of course, it will disturb what? The cognitive load and understanding. When the teacher is when the teacher is taking class, if you get a lot of noise among some naughty students, now what happens means actually it helps you. Sorry, it does not help you. It disturbs you from understanding, right? You cannot understand what teacher is saying, what teacher is communicating. Of course, the answer is the first answer. Then the classroom communication should essentially be contrived, empathetic, abstract, or non-descriptive. What is meant by contrived? Contrived means it's not natural, it's an artificial thing. Okay, contrived, it's a formality-based communication. Does the classroom communication should be formality-based one or an artificial one? No. Empathetic. So empathetic means having the ability to understand each other's feeling, having the ability to share one's feeling, or understanding some other person, some other friends, students' feeling. That is empathetic. Abstract, that does not have any form, that we cannot understand. Non-descriptive, something we cannot describe at all. So now tell me, these are the meanings of the 4 options given. The best option is empathetic. Yes, having the ability to understand or sharing the feeling of another. Okay, so this is the right answer. Now the next one is, a good communicator begins his presentation with a. So if I am starting my presentation means, what should I do? How to start with? Should I start with a complex question, a question that you cannot understand? Non-sequitur, again, non-sequitur means based on a conclusion. Okay, this is the conclusion, some not a logic one. Or repetitive phrase, again and again. Hello, good morning, listen to me, just like that. Repeating a phrase. Or icebreaker. What is meant by icebreaker? Icebreaker is more like a game or joke that is usually used to make people familiar among each other, that who do not know each other. So the option is icebreaker. Icebreaker, it's a game or joke that is normally used to make people relaxed. Okay, so the right option is icebreaker. A good communicator has to begin her or his presentation with an icebreaker. In a classroom, the next question is, in a classroom, the probability of message reception can be enhanced by how we can get a good message. How message reception can be enhanced, developed by establishing a viewpoint, exposing the ignorance of students, increasing the information load, using high decibel audio tools. So how message reception can be enhanced by? You just eliminate all the negative answer. Exposing the ignorance of students? No. Increasing the information load? No. Using high decibel audio tools? Of course, it will be, you all know what will happen. So just ignore the eliminate the negative option. Establishing a viewpoint, of course, giving a point of view will enhance the message reception. In my opinion, in my view, if a teacher just gives her or his view, the message reception will be naturally enhanced. So the answer is first option. Classroom communications are largely influenced by students' commitment, teacher-centric environment, organizational oversight, and solicited interventions. Again, it just classroom communication means it will be between a student and teacher, of course. So how it is largely influenced? Students' commitment play a main role in classroom communication. So of course the answer is 1. Okay. The next question is, so it is an assertion and reason based question. So assertion means it's a statement based on a fact. It's a fact-based statement or a belief-based strong statement. So the statement given here is, to communicate well in the classroom is a natural ability. Reason is, effective teaching in the classroom demands knowledge of the communication process. So they have given an assertion, they have given a reason. Now look at the code, both A and or true. Just look at the options. And what is the right answer? Do you think that the assertion is right? To communicate well in the classroom is a natural ability. So the answer is A is false, but R is true. Of course, to communicate well in the classroom is a natural ability. Is it a natural ability? Is it an inborn ability, communicating well in the classroom? Of course, no. Communication needs no inborn quality. It is based on, so practice alone helps us communicate well. So practice plays a main role here. So it is not a natural ability. Now look at the reason. Effective teaching in the classroom demands knowledge of the communication process, of course. It is true. So the answer is A is false, R is true. Okay, now the next one. In the digital era, there is a fear that classroom communication may result in passive adaptation, quick adaptation, stimulation, overstimulation. The answer is overstimulation. Digital era, you all know, technology based. So here I am communicating to you. How? It is through online, right? So in this digital era, there is a fear that classroom communication, you all know how a classroom will be noisy, everything, right? So classroom communication involves everything. A teacher will be talking, if the students, some cranky students will be there, they'll be generating some noise. So this digital era, online communication, what happens? What happens to classroom communication? So when we are adapted to this online communication digital era, there is a fear that classroom communication may result in overstimulation. Overstimulation is like somewhat reacting, being sensitized to much noise. Okay, so overstimulation is the answer. And then the rhetorical approach in classroom communication considers teachers as what is meant by rhetorical approach? Art of speaking or writing properly in a stylistic way. If a teacher speaks, in a stylistic way, or that art, if he or she knows the art of speaking, of course they'll be influencing the students a lot. Okay, so influencing non-official, academic, official. The answer is very transparent. It is influencing. They'll be influencing the students if he or she speaks, communicate well, or that art he or she has. Okay. Now the next one is, teacher communication is central to classroom management. Teacher communication behavior should not be used to regulate the classroom behavior of students. Again, we have an assertion and a reason. Teacher communication is central to classroom management. Of course, a teacher should communicate properly and it is central to classroom management. Only then she or he can manage the classroom. It is a fact-based statement. And reason, teacher communication behavior should not be used to regulate the classroom behavior of students. This is not the reason. So the option is A is true, but R is false. Okay. And then the next question is non-verbal communication is considered. Non-verbal means we do not use any language, only through body movements and gestures. If we communicate, that comes under non-verbal category. It is considered formal. Is it a formal communication? No. Culture free? Not at all. Informal? Yes, it is an informal communication. Precise means exact. So non-verbal communication comes under which category? Informal category. Okay. And then the next question is, we just have a look at the match. I mean, it is a matching. Set A with set B. Okay. Audio, advertising, internet, newspaper, bandwidth, linear communication, non-personal communication, frequency modulation. Now I'll explain. So audio means naturally it will have a frequency modulation. So audio suits with 4. A for 4. Okay. Advertising it's, of course, that comes under non-personal communication. It is not personal, non-personal communication. Internet, the frequency is measured with bandwidth. Okay. And then newspaper comes under which category? Linear communication. What is meant by linear communication? Linear communication means like a straight line communication. What is that? It's a one-way process. Newspaper will be giving message to the receiver. Does the receiver gives any feedback? No, not at all. It's not a two-way process. It's a one-way process. If it is a one-way process, it is called linear communication. That line, okay, they'll be just giving messages. The encoders will be giving messages. The receiver will be receiving messages. That's all. No feedback or no response. So newspaper comes under linear communication. So all mass communication media comes under linear communication. So the answer is 3. Okay, third option. Just look at the option. A communication process can be considered complete when the sender transmits the message enters the channel, the message leaves the channel, the receiver understands the message. It is the fourth option. Yes, of course. Only when the receiver gets the message, the communication process is considered complete. Okay. Now the next question. Identify the reasoning in the following argument. Pre-active stage of classroom teaching is important just as pre-learning preparation stage of communication. Here we have two statements. Okay, one thing is compared to another statement. Okay, now based on this, identify the reasoning in the following argument. What type of reasoning is used? Is it a hypothetical reasoning? Hypothetical statement? Hypothetical is somewhat imaginary. Is it imaginary? No. Deductive. Deductive is a conclusion. It's a concluding. It's somewhat reaching a final answer. This is what the answer. Is that so? Inductive. Inductive is a generalized conclusion based on specific instances. Finding out a generalized conclusion. Or analogical. Analogical is comparing and finding out things. Now tell me which is the option. Fourth is the option, because here in this statement we are comparing one thing to another and finding out reaching a statement. Okay, so comparison comes under this category. So the option is analogical. And then in the context of communication, usual sequences. What is the sequence? Just look at the options. Did language come first or communication come first? Of course, it is communication. So leave out first option and fourth option, second and third option. Okay, so communication came first because animals communicate before they have no language. Okay, even before language was invented, we communicated. How? Using some gestures or some sounds we communicated. So communication comes first, and then when we start communicating, naturally we find out our own way of communication. So that is called a language. So language, and with that we form a society, group of people. Okay, so society, and then next sequence is civilization. After that we slowly develop and we reach a proper growth. So advanced level, we reach an advanced level of growth, development. So civilization. So this is order: communication, language, society, and civilization. So the option is 3. And then when verbal and non-verbal messages are contradictory, it is said that most people believe in indeterminate messages, messages that are not sure, verbal messages, spoken language, non-verbal messages, that expression, body movement, aggressive messages. Now tell me what will be the option. Third one is option. Why? I'll explain. Verbal and non-verbal messages are contradictory. If I am asking my student, are you all ready for the class? Shall we start the class? Half of the class will be answering, yes ma'am, I can understand. They are very eager. Okay. Half of the class will be answering, yes ma'am, you can start ma'am. How they are answering? Their verbal language and non-verbal messages are contradictory. Non-verbal means their expressions. Okay, so their expressions and that language both are contradictory. But right from the answer, I can understand. Yes, ma'am, you can start. Which thing I will believe? Of course, I will believe their expression that communicates something else, right? Right from the answer, I can understand. வேண்டானா விட போறீங்களா எடுங்க அப்படின்ற மாதிரி, right? So usually most people believe in non-verbal messages, their expression, their body movement. Yes ma'am says they are not interested. So most people believe in non-verbal messages. So the answer is third option. The typical feature of an information-rich classroom is in the nature of being. So information-rich classroom is in the nature of being sedentary, no physical activity, staggered, somewhat about to fall, very big, factual, fact-based information. Factual means everything rich, facts. Sectoral, again, based on a particular idea, particular belief. So the options are clear. So which is the best option? Of course, third one, factual, fact-based, fact-rich, rich information. The option is third. So here we finish the first topic, questions on first topic. Hope it was clear. Hope you understand the explanation that I've already given in the previous session and for this and in this session too. So with this information, practice more questions on communication. You can easily get 10 marks from this topic. Now we'll move on to the next topic, reading comprehension. So you all know reading comprehension will take time. So what you have to do is, as I discussed already in the previous session, read the passage, find out what is the subject of the passage and what does the author say about the subject, and then what is the message conveyed through the subject. So these 3 things you have to identify when you read the passage. You just have a look at the passage, what it is about. I'll just give you 1 minute and then we'll go on to the questions. We'll do skimming. Skimming is when we look at the question, we'll just come again to the paragraph. We'll have a short reading again. Just have a look at the passage. So when you look at the passage, you can easily understand it's about water resources. It's about water, power of water. Yes? So it's about, the subject is water resources. So water, it's about water. And what does the author say about the water? What are all the different water resources? How they are contaminated? What we have to do to save our resource? So everything is discussed. And what is the message he conveys? The message is, we have to, what is that? How valuable this resource is. So we have to save water. We have to save water for our future use. That is the message conveyed. Okay, so these things we have understood, we have identified. Now we'll move on to the questions. As per the text of the passage, the 8th edition of the World Water Forum was concerned with. So 8th edition of the World Water Forum was concerned with, where is that? Now find out. We came across this phrase, right? 8th edition of, yes, here we have. Brasilia hosted the 8th edition of the World Water Forum, where heads of states, civil societies, and private sector gathered to discuss the present and future of mankind's most valuable resource. So they were discussing The most valuable resource. Present and future of mankind's most valuable resource. So here the options are present and future of mankind. It is not about their future alone. The issue of high tidal waves. No. Power of water. The role of civil society. So the best option is the power of water. So they were discussing the present and future of mankind's use of power of water resources. So the third is the option. Now the next question. Deliberations on the theme sharing water should facilitate regular evaluation of sustainable development goals. Just look at the four options. The answer is the first option. Just we'll go back, we'll skim. We'll read the passage short. We'll have a quick reading. So deliberations here would play a decisive role in the periodic assessment of the Sustainable Development Goals of Agenda 2030. So here we have the answer, Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. Now the third question. The institutional framework of Brazil for water management promotes bilateral collaboration, provides for multi-stakeholder participation, consists of regional river boards, address legal dimensions of water sharing. So we'll go back to the passage. Institutional framework of Brazil for water management. Where do we have? Yes. So institutional framework, where it is. Yes, here we have. Okay. Institutional framework of regional water has been set up while successes to address the dire needs irrigation and mitigation of groundwater depletion. Where it is, of course, here, based on the principle of multi-stakeholder participation. Yes. So the answer is yes, of course. Second one, multi-stakeholder participation. Now the next question is, what would be of high priority to both New Delhi and Brasilia as regards river water? What is the high priority? New Delhi and Brasilia. Okay. So adequate treatment of industrial wastewater, the fight against contamination of riverbeds, and assistance to drought affected areas are high priority topics for both New Delhi and Brasilia. So now look at the options. So which option suits best? Proposing water as a global common, sharing water, development of large water resources, fight against contamination of riverbeds. Yes, of course. The fourth one is the right option. Okay. So this option suits best. So fourth option is the answer. Next, the main focus of the passage is on resolution of water conflicts, encouraging bilateral cooperation, management of water as a valuable resource, river interlinking. No need to go back to the passage because we know the answer. It's about management of water as a valuable resource. So third is the option. So this is how we have to answer reading comprehension passage. When you read, you have to identify three things: the subject of the passage, what the author is conveying, what is his ideas, and what is the message he conveys. So understand these three concepts, these three things, and then go back to the questions, find out the question, understand the question properly, look at the paragraph, again, you find out the question, sentence, and find out the option. Look at the options and find out which options suit best. And then you can easily answer. You'll be getting 10 marks easily. It's an easy thing. This will enable you to answer reading comprehension properly. So with this, we finish our practice session. Okay. So we were analyzing previous year's question papers, 2017 question, 2018 question, 2019 question. So I think these questions would have helped you a lot. Okay. This is just for your understanding how questions are asked, how options are given, so how to answer questions. The basic thing is, whatever question is asked, first understand the question properly. That is the basic thing. That is the utmost thing. Okay? Understand what is asked. Read all the options. Understand the meaning of all the options, and then go for the right answer. Only then you can find out the right answer. This is the best way to answer a question. Okay, and with this I conclude my session. Once again, I wish you all the best for your upcoming NET set examination. You be focused, be determined, work hard, but practice, because practice is the key word to be successful. Okay, so I conclude my speech, I conclude my session, and I am very happy to meet you all through this learning session. So just convert this happy learning to a successful learning. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.